A very good evening and welcome once again to Terrace Talk, and a busy show lined up for you. Anytime it's post-analysis, of course, on a final in Croke Park, it's always a busy show. And if you were at that game yesterday, if you've seen that game on TV or listened to it on radio, please do not hesitate in contacting us tonight. You can call us on 066 7123 666, text in 083 300 3300. Also on WhatsApp, Terrace Talk, on Facebook, or tweet at Terrace Talk RK, Terrace Talk at Radio Kerry.ie. And I'm delighted tonight to be joined once again by Donal Barry of The Outlook. I've Dinny Long, John Kennedy and Liam Brosnan as part of our panel for tonight's game, looking back at yesterday's game even. And that's why we might start, actually, with you, Liam Brosnan. Liam, a build-up, Kerry winning 5 out of 6 of their league games, set us up with a final against a team that we encountered a few weeks earlier in Austinstack Park, and it was a case of could Kerry reverse that result?
Yeah, Tim, I suppose, look, it was nice to be up there. It was something that we didn't expect at the start of the year to be in a league final, and I was above there with my 3 nephews who warned me to mention them tonight, Sean Og, Finan and Oisin, and they were kind of taking notes for me. But look, at the end of the day, I suppose after the Mayo game down here, we all kind of said, look, we'll wait now for the league final and we'll see where we really are. And I suppose yesterday was going to be a big test for us, and it was a test that we didn't get across the line. But look, football's a game of inches. If Clifford's goal went in the end, we probably would have pushed on and won it. But I do think, look, I think there is, and leagues are probably like that. I do think there's a lot more questions than answers. I think the Kerry management will have a lot of thinking to do and a lot of jiggling and trying to knuckle down the squad now and get fellas into positions. Mayo, people are saying Mayo are gone, but I'm a different thing. I think Mayo are getting stronger, Tim. I think experience, they will be there at the end of the championship. Killian O'Connor, Hanley, Shamey O'Shea to come back into that squad. No, they're tough, they're experienced. We all saw yesterday, you heard it this morning, they did bully us. They did bully us again yesterday. The last 15 minutes out around the middle of the field, our 2 midfielders, they weren't let go. They were manhandled. They were pulled to the ground. They were hit. Now you can say X and Y's about the referee and the linesman as well, who didn't probably help the thing. But it's experience. Mayo had a lot of experience in the field yesterday. Like Shawnee, like you could say, Rowan. These guys, the Lee Keegans. They have they're there a long time, and it proved yesterday when the game was in the melting pot. These small little tricks that they pick up through years of championship. And I think our fellas learn from it. A lot of our guys.
Great experience for our guys.
Massive experience. And if we, like we said a couple of weeks ago, we were sitting down here, and if you said at the start of the year that we'd be in a league final, and I'd be happy to hold our Division 1 status. That's the way I looked at the start of the year. And I do think the management have looked at players, and they know what fellas can do and what can't do now, and they know what they have to get right come championship. The only problem we have now, Tim, is that we have no game probably till August. Probably the start of August.
It's about 9 weeks, is it, as far as any competitive game?
Any competitive game, but realistically, like looking at Munster at the moment, they're in the whole pile of Munster, so it's looking like the Super 8s before we can
your former colleague won't like to hear that.
You never know. I think
nothing in Munster. That's
I think talking to Martin, I think they're just happy if they could get to a Munster final at the way they are, and I think that'd be a big achievement.
If you go to final, you want to win it.
Well, I suppose, Tim, they're a Division 3 team now, so we'd be expecting to know that we should be pulling ahead of them.
Actually, looking at some tweets over the past 24 hours, of course, Sylvester Hennessy, who was part of a panel here over the last number of years, said, a bit of perspective. 4 of the 2016 Kerry Minor All-Ireland winning forward line started yesterday, 1 19-year-old and 3 20-year-olds. It's been a great league from a Kerry point of view, and the future is bright, and all we need is a little patience. John Kennedy.
Yeah, Tim, there's a lot of merit in that, I think. We sat here a few months ago, Tim, and we personally thought, like Liam said, if we could keep our Division 1 status, we were going to look at a lot of young players, which we did. It was a roller coaster. We went through the league unbeaten until we met Mayo here in Tralee on a terrible night. And I've been saying for a long time, Tim, that this Mayo team they're underestimated. They don't get the credit they deserve, and they've been the near limit so many times. And, you could see that yesterday. I think if David Clifford's flick had gone in, that would be the end of Mayo, because that self-doubt would come into their head. And if they were in that position again, they would falter. But you could see it was like a release valve that was let off when the game was over. You could see the joy and the emotion, what it meant to them. Their supporters was fantastic. And, they deserved it. They shaded it on the day, but they should have won by more, But they shaded it on the day. But I think if you were looking for one example of youth and experience, I think it was the Mayo goal, the last goal they got. Andy Moran, when he won possession out in front of Jason Foley.
Lovely pass inside.
What a ball.
Tracy. Yeah.
What a pass. I mean, you can't get that into a guy. That's natural. That's years and years of experience. And the finish. Another guy, a young fella, he might have fisted it over the bar. He went for it and tucked it away. But there's a lot of positives from Kerry point of view. We've blooded so many players. It highlighted a few areas that we need to work on, Tim. Defensively again, we started the league very well. That gap was closed. We weren't conceding scores. Yesterday again, we were open. You look at the goal that when Shane Ryan came out and the ball was fisted to the net. What player was there? It was to Shawnee Shea. Shawnee Shea's our centre forward, look at the defending he did yesterday. We'll need Shawnee Shea above, but it's a learning curve. And I think you look at what's to come in. Shane Enright, he's an all-star footballer. I think there is a place for him. I think that, obviously the selectors had an idea, went with youth, persevered with them, took them into Croke Park. How many times have they been beaten in Croke Park at underage level? This was their first taste of defeat. And I think, that they'll learn from it and they'll come and they'll be better for it.
Dinny Long, let's get to the game itself. We see the Kerry line out against Mayo. Mayo were always going to be strong physically. We experienced that in Austin Stack Park, and a lot of people, previewing the game, said, look, it's going to be a different Kerry team, and they won't let Mayo do what they did in Austin Stack Park. Did you see any difference between the night was bad? Park?
It was very hard to judge the game in Austin Stack Park because of the conditions. Yesterday, conditions were very good. They were playing in Croke Park. Both teams like playing in Croke Park, like all other teams. From a Kerry point of view, just Kerry alone, that Kerry would be disappointed to lose the league final. But there was pluses in the sense that they got to the league final. They tried out a lot of players, but if you want to be critical of yesterday, they were well beaten yesterday. I thought it was quite poor performance from Kerry. I don't think Mayo are that good, to be honest about it. I think Mayo, I think they were there for the taking in the first half. Mayo were quite poor in the first half. They kicked 5 points. Kerry went in 4 points up, 3 to 5 points at half time. Kerry never kicked on in the second half. Now, Mayo got a bit of confidence. They opened up the Kerry defence too easy for me, and not alone they got 3 goals, but they could have got 7 goals. So Kerry were very, very poor, particularly in the second half. And if you look at their starting 6 forwards, which only kicked, I think, 1-2 or 1-3 between them, it was a quite poor return. But defensively, they had huge problems. They were quite poor in the middle of the field. Overall, it was a poor Kerry performance. But when you take into consideration that they were trying out 5 or 6 fellas in and around 20 years of age, the other 8 or 9 are 24 and 25. Kerry, whereas Peter Keane said last night that he learned a lot and he wasn't that disappointed. Kerry would be disappointed because they lost, and I think...
And they lost the final as well.
They lost the final as well. And I think deep down, I know Peter Keane has to say what he has to say and so on, but deep down I think that the overall performance from Kerry was quite disappointing. Did they learn anything from the league? They did, because there are some of the players that just aren't up to that standard. Can they come back and be a force in the championship? Certainly they'll be in the top 8, but at this point in time Kerry are probably 3rd or 4th in the picking order, judging from what we've seen. Their young players are not ready yet. They're making progress. You have to try them. Give them a chance. There's no point in, I think you said yourself this morning, bring back some of the old players. Of course, a mixture of old and new would be good, but I still think Kerry, going forward, not to be overplaying the issue that waiting for this team, it'll take them another year or two to be up to the physical demands of senior inter-county football, but persist with the young fellas. Some of them obviously aren't good enough, but if you ask me overall, Kerry would be disappointed with their overall display on that particular final yesterday.
Another tweet I seen here earlier from Mortimer Murphy. Prepare for the lynching of our young Kerry team who exceeded expectations by reaching a final. Pundits will question fitness, midfield, defence, attack, plan B. It's March, it's the start of a journey not to win it. Donal Barry, a tweet like that, and I know this gentleman, there's nobody going to hear for lynching anybody or nobody in general, because this is youth that Peter Keane is trying out, and the only thing that we can do is talk about the game on its own merits. There's nobody out lynching this Kerry team. There's a great buzz around our county at the minute about football because they know the potential of a lot of these young men. But we have to speak about the game on its merits.
Absolutely. I suppose the one thing that we're not giving Kerry supporters credit for is that they know football as good as the four people sitting around the table here, and they understand where Kerry are at the moment, and they see a work in progress. And I suppose sometimes you have to look back at previous years to see how far you've gone. Last year in the league we won 3 games. 2 of the 3 teams we beat were relegated out of Division 1, and Mayo were the other team that we beat above in Mayo. Now, Mayo this year, had Mayo lost in Croke Park yesterday, it would have been their 10th time losing in Croke Park. Mayo simply had to win that game yesterday. There was more in the tank for Mayo. And we're talking about bullying and maybe a bit of physicality. That's the card they had to play, and they played it. We don't have that card. I've said it before, we don't have it. What we have is youth, what we have is exuberance. And with youth and with exuberance, unfortunately, comes a lot of mistakes. And yesterday, a lot of the Kerry players, for the first time in the campaign, were exposed at the highest level that they've played. It was nearly championship standard football, and they came up short. Dinny's right. The 4 points at the end probably doesn't do justice to James Hornside, and James Hornside in the interview afterwards, we could have won that game by 10 or 12 points. Maybe there was that much in between it, but the simple fact about it was that if we had got the break with time nearly up, we could have snuck it. Did we deserve it? Probably not. But look, it's a stepping ground. You look at the players. There's nobody out to lynch any players. But what people are out to do is they're out to look at a team and look at the improvements along it and measure it. I went to work today. 10 different people, 10 different opinions about the full back line. If you walk down the street in Tralee, everybody has a different idea who the midfield is.
That's the GAA Sport.
That's healthy. That's not lynching. That's healthy. Where it turns nasty is people going on social media and going through Facebook and trawling through with some very, very harsh comments on young players. And nobody around this table will do that. Anything I will say, I'll say out in the public and the same with everybody else. Disappointed, yes, but disappointed for a different reason. I went to Croke Park yesterday thinking Kerry could win. We have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, definitely so. Lads, you're going to stay with us. Plenty more after this break.
Terrace Talk on Radio Kerry. Brought to you in association with BrianJames.ie. Leading the way for stylish menswear in Kerry.
You're very welcome back here to Terrace Talk, and of course I'm joined in studio tonight by Donal Barry, Dinny Long, John Kennedy and Liam Brosnan as we look back at yesterday's Kerry versus Mayo game in Croke Park. Those comments coming through to us. Hi guys, I love the show. Was up in HQ yesterday and have a question for the panel. Why was Mark Griffin not put Mark and Aidan O'Shea? Seems crazy not to put our biggest, most physical player on him. Another comment, where is Shane Enright? Why do the Kerry defence keep going forward? Hi Tim, Kerry will learn from yesterday. We must be patient and give them time to progress. There are going to be bad days, but they will come good. And that comes from Charles. How do the panel feel about James Horan's comments that Mayo should have won by 10 or 12 points? Well, I know Donal Barry has already alluded to that comment. Let's go back, Liam, actually there to the first comment that Mark Griffin on Aidan O'Shea. Aidan O'Shea is a very physical player, and I suppose you have to match it. Kieran Donaghy was deployed over the last couple of seasons to mark him. You have to put a physical guy on him.
You do, and the one thing with Aidan, I suppose, as we just hit it there earlier, is that it's probably his 10th, if not 11th, 12th season playing championship football. He has been beaten in All-Ireland finals. He's been beaten in Connacht finals. So the experience that man is carrying is just, our boys wouldn't have came across it yesterday. And I think the last 15 minutes it showed.
But Liam, the question relates to counteract it. We all know coming into the game how good Aidan O'Shea is, or what way he operates, but you have to put, you're a manager of Brosnan. If you meet a guy against Ballyduff in the county championship, beat Mikey Boyle, you have to put a plan in place for him.
But it's very hard to counteract the likes of Aidan O'Shea when you have a young guy on him. And that's what we had yesterday, Tim, with no experience.
The question here is why with Mark Griffin on him? Like,
if you saw it yesterday, I'll get back to that. When we saw it yesterday, when they got on top of us the last 15 minutes when they came level with us. On our kick out, Aidan O'Shea had our midfielder in a bear crawl, basically, and Ruan as well had the same thing. No matter who was going to be on him at that stage, he was going to be doing the same thing. So Aidan is he'd be like Darragh O'Shea back in his time, a very experienced player. Now, getting back to Mark Griffin, yeah, you'd say, right, he'd be experienced and stuff like that. I think our downfall yesterday in midfield is that our midfielders got tired and there was no replacement. No, I thought like Diarmid's legs went, and in fairness to the young boy, it was a massive game.
He's only 19. What is it?
He's only 19 years of age. I thought maybe before they took Tommy off, maybe bring someone on, bring Tommy out for 10 minutes, and let Tommy bust the gut for 10 minutes, and then take Tommy off, and maybe bring on Gavin O'Brien in midfield. But it was midfield yesterday, and the same with Jack Barry. Like the amount of ground they covered, it's very easy to point the finger and say we were destroyed midfield. But like where I was sitting yesterday, nice and high, and you could see these boys had to cover an amount of space against very experienced footballers, and I think it was just the legs caught us and the little bit of positioning sense that we lost. Like we lost Ruan now again yesterday for the goal, the same as above in Tralee, and it wasn't so much that they lost him; it was the legs. They were able to like Diarmid's legs went. So I thought maybe a few changes around the middle of the field, and that's something the Kerry management will probably work on. That maybe they could have taken off Diarmid, bring it on a forward, move Tommy over 10 minutes, waste 10 minutes with Tommy hopping off Aidan O'Shea, didn't replace Tommy, that kind of a thing. And I think that's something that the Kerry management will work in. And Mark Griffin would be an ideal candidate as well for 10 or 15 minutes on him. But I just think that we left our two midfielders in the middle of the field too long yesterday.
John Kennedy, let's talk about, because it's a huge discussion, be it this morning, yesterday evening after the game, that these guys are very young, both Jack Barry and Diarmid O'Connor, and representing a very proud club in the Gael as well. But you're coming up against experience, and you're coming up against two very solid midfielders in Aidan O'Shea and Matt Ruan. Is there a Donal alluded to it earlier, that we don't have that physicality in general. We're a young team. In time, they will grow physically, but you have to counteract it in a certain way.
It's difficult to counteract it, Tim, to be fair. And, we've been crying out here for a few years for Donie Buckley. You can see the work Buckley has put in with that Mayo team, the tackling, their physical presence, they have that built up over time. That doesn't happen overnight. And these are young lads, and Diarmid O'Connor will certainly learn from yesterday. Jack Barry, he's more experienced, but, they'll have better days. But yesterday wasn't a good day at the office for the lads. But the point I'd like to make, Tim, in the first half, we went in at half time 3 to 5 points up. Shawnee Shea had a 45 which the keeper pulled down under the crossbar or over the crossbar. Kevin McCarthy had one off the post and another one into the goalie, and Peter Crowley had another. That's 4 potential points, Tim. Had we got those, you'd be going in, that'd be a 9-point lead at half time. That'd be a mountain to climb. We didn't get the little bit of look. You look at 2 sidelines that were pulled back for hot balls. We went inside the line. Yeah. It was that kind of a day. And any of us that have played it, and the higher level you play, things happen. But you go into a cauldron of a National League final. It's your first senior final as such. It's a huge occasion. The kicks that are so easy, they become difficult. The 50-50 balls, there's a doubt in the mind when things start to happen. And that's a learning curve. And there's no way, you have to go through that and you have to learn from it. And I think we will certainly come out better. But Mayo's experience, they needed leaders yesterday, Mayo, at vital stages. Diarmid O'Connor was their leader. He kicked 2 massive points in the second half. We hadn't possession in the scoring area to get it, and we were unlucky with a few. I mean, the David Clifford's chance, had that gone in, it was a fantastic reflex save, but it was a split second.
Yeah, margins are so tight. Dinny Long, let's talk about that first half. Kerry with 2 very good goals. You'd say it gave them a foundation maybe to drive on. They went in 3 points ahead, 2-3 to 5 points at half time. Would you feel that Kerry could drive on from there?
Yeah, I thought.
And they were well taken goals.
Yeah, I thought Kerry had quite a number of opportunities in the first half. I think Kerry were shaded, in my opinion, in the first half. They didn't get. There were some scores, easy scores that they didn't take. But overall, I think in the second half they just didn't seem to be able to stand up physically to Mayo, and Mayo came more into the game and they ran at Kerry, which exposed Kerry quite a lot, and obviously they kicked scores and they got the goals. The goals were the difference in the end. I mean, Mayo got 3 goals. You would have to say there were 3 reasonably good goals, but like there was the pass from Andy Morton, which was a great pass, but he was kicking it in and there was no Kerry back inside. There was actually no one. Then you had Shawnee Shea going up with the goalkeeper. Not Shawnee Shea's fault. And next thing, Diarmuid O'Connell gets in between the two of them and the ball is in the back of the net. So overall, Kerry they were exposed very much so in the second half, and the physical presence. The one thing I thought that Kerry would have done yesterday, I think they were bunching it too much with Mayo. You know, they're a young team, a lot of them are very young. They should have opened out the play, expand the play more, but it was very clogged, particularly around the middle of the field. That suited Aidan O'Shea more than anybody else.
And I should have a former Mayo player on the line now. I should have Conor Mortimer. Good evening, Conor.
How are you? How are things?
Not too bad. You're very welcome here to Terrace Talk. Conor, you might get the gist of it there. Dinny Long was just speaking before I introduced you yourself. We felt that yesterday, maybe physically, we were a small bit outdone by the Mayo side.
I'd have to agree now what you've been speaking about. I think, we would probably have expected Kerry to play a wide, expansive game as opposed to trying getting into the physical stuff. That was the worry, I suppose, Mayo might have had coming up. Obviously, Kerry's forwards have been playing well when it's an open game of football. Now, in the first half at the weekend, they did a lot better in relation to running at our defence. Now, obviously, we did it in the second half, and we got our goals, but Kerry made it look easy in the first half when they ran at us. I think obviously, going into even the last couple of minutes when obviously we got our last goal, when Tracy got his goal, obviously Kerry had everyone pushed forward to try, and they were obviously 4 points down at that stage.
Yeah, we're chasing the game.
They were, and I think that leaves gaps at the back. Now look at, there was an awful lot of chances for both sides in the game. We could have had 3 or 4 goals in the first half. I mean, we hand passed 2, I think, over the bar, and Kerry similar. I mean, the corner forward was pulled back for a free when I didn't see an awful lot wrong with it. There was some stuff like that. It was actually, it was tight enough throughout. Now, we obviously got on top in the second half, but it was only when, and I think going back to your point in the earlier conversation, the experience that Mayo had obviously in the last number of years showed in the second half. There's no doubt about it.
They've experienced the sort of a game from playing Dublin over the last number of years, where Dublin protected a lead they had. And the physicality, a lot of people are saying that for physicality alone, they're probably the closest to Dublin. Is that fair to say?
There would be, but I mean, look, you have to understand, I mean, the Kerry team now coming is a lot of young guys, new manager, and it's up and coming. I mean, they've had a fantastic league up till the last game against Mayo. They've won 7. They had won 7 or 8, and I think it's like a lot of teams in Ireland. We were similar a few years back. I mean, the hype thing comes into it where you have a good league. You're All-Ireland contenders. And I said it after the Mayo Kerry game in the league in Tralee that there wasn't contenders there, and the reason being, like Mayo or Kerry were 4-7 to win that game at the weekend. Mayo have been the second best team in the last 5 years in Ireland, and in particularly big games, quarterfinals, semi-finals and finals. They played well in the finals without actually winning the final. And I think that showed at the weekend. We hadn't won a national trophy. That was the biggest thing for us at the weekend. Mayo were always going to perform at the weekend. There was no two ways about it.
But it's just a case.
I think it showed that in the second half.
How does it work psychologically for the Mayo side? They've won national title. I know they'll be looking for that elusive Sam Maguire. Are Mayo better than they were last year and the year before?
They've introduced 1 or 2 players, I'd say. Are they better? It's too early to say, and I think the reason being, there's 32 teams in it. Dublin are obviously out in front. I think there's 5 or 6 teams that kind of come in together. Mayo will be one of them. They'll be a little bit ahead of Kerry, a little bit ahead of Tyrone. Now, that's not to say on any given day them teams can't beat each other. I just think I didn't see enough yesterday to say either team will beat Dublin in a big game. I didn't see enough from either team, to be fair. It was a very good game of football. A couple of you guys from Mayo played very well. Ruan in midfield was very good for Mayo. So we need forwards, we Kerry need backs, and I think that's
the conundrum that has to be sorted. Trevor, I've got to let you go, but or even Conor, I've got to let you go. But thanks for your view on the Mayo side this afternoon. I'm sure we'll be chatting to you before this. The championship is over. Thanks a million. Of course, that's
thanks, lad.
Conor Mortimer, former Mayo player, and those comments coming through to us. Hi all, great league campaign for the Kingdom when all is said and done. Some wayward passing led to extra pressure and scores yesterday. Games like that will only add to their pluck, and that comes from Brendan in Boston. Hi Tim, I know this is a young team etc, but there is something missing in this Kerry team. I can't figure it out. What do the panel think of that? Great show as always. Hi Tim, after being in Croker yesterday and watching the two teams, I think it's about time you and the pundits leave bygones be bygones and forget about the likes of Brian Sheehan, Johnny Buckley. And the question I have is can you name a game that Johnny Buckley won a game for Kerry? And that comes from John from Glenbeigh. I think that's a bit harsh. I think Johnny Buckley was a huge loss to the Kerry team, and he's been an outstanding midfielder in our county, and I rate Johnny Buckley very highly, I have to say. And our RTÉ.ie, James Horn said, we butchered them. Awful words from him. I hope Mayo men are worth their butcher salt and stop Dublin's 5 in a row in September. Shane Enright, an all-star, sitting on the bench yesterday when strength and experience needed. Why? That's a question we will ask our panel after this break.
Terrace Talk on Radio Kerry. Brought to you in association with BrianJames.ie. Leading the way for stylish menswear in Kerry.
You're very welcome back here to Terrace Talk as we look back at yesterday's game in Croke Park. And Donal Barry, that last question that last text message we received before we went to break, Shane Enright, an all-star sitting on the bench yesterday when strength and experience needed.
Yeah, absolutely. Strength and experience. Experience anyway, I suppose the strength not. Shane Enright has only played 86 minutes, I suppose, of football through the whole league. It is a big jump, I suppose, to bring a guy in. A lot of guys that were playing yesterday in the league, they were kind of a settled team, with the exception of Graham Sullivan, who was playing his second game in a row. Shane Enright has plenty to offer. But again, you see, I suppose, the question is, are we building a team towards something later on the year, or, was the league the be-and-all, end of all? Peter Kane wasn't that unduly upset about losing. Had we won it, great. Had we didn't win it wasn't a big deal either. I'd be more, everybody's going at the backs. I think our forwards didn't perform yesterday. I think with the exception of Stephen O'Brien, who was one of the few forwards who could actually turn over ball and win ball, the rest of the forwards didn't perform to their ability. And we'll just say David Clifford, not picking him out or anything, but David Clifford only had 2 possessions in the first 15 minutes into his hand. Tommy Walsh only had the ball twice in his hand. Was that in case
the ball wasn't coming from the middle of the field?
The ball wasn't coming in, but sometimes when the ball doesn't come in, you have to go look for it, and you have to go out for it, and you have to, because Kevin McCarthy, right, he had 6 balls in his hand. He went out looking for it. He got it, and there has to be an element of looking.
They all can go looking for it.
Well, I know, but these are players of experience now. Tommy Walsh is experienced enough, and David Clifford is a big time player as well. When they need ball, they have to go get ball. It was very evident from the first 15 minutes that we got a couple of very handy frees that were put over the bar. And with the exception of the 2 goals that we got, which I thought were against the run of play actually, Gavin Crowley, went up. Most people probably wouldn't even thought that was in his arsenal to pull the ball back and slap it into net. And Stephen O'Brien runs through. We would have been in serious trouble. So again, while everybody's saying, look, the backs were in trouble, and they were. You're in trouble when your midfield in front of you can't get possession. And if you think about it, Mayo, even though Aidan O'Shea was on the ball a lot, he wasn't rampaging through all the time. He played a lot of lovely ball in over the top. Andy Moore as well every now and again when he came on towards the end of the game. And I suppose the one thing for me that disappointed me with the Kerry team was the possession of the second goal. That came when Graham Sullivan clipped it over. It was caught by Henley. Mayo played that ball for 17 hand passes. There was only 1 kick in it. That was Andy Moore's one where he turned the play again, and Mayo were in for goal. So I mean, we were very naive, I thought. We gave Mayo an awful lot, and in all the games we played so far, and maybe Shane Enright could have added to this, we were up in their faces. We weren't up in Mayo's faces yesterday. We left them have ball. Now I know people say Croke Park's a big field and you can't defend it and the whole lot, but I didn't see that kind of tigerishness or determination that was there from the earlier games. And with the exception of the Roscommon game, and Roscommon were on their way to being relegated, the back end of the league for me, we've been quite disappointing. We lost to Mayo. We struggled over Galway as well. So a lot of these questions have been asked week and week and week. So maybe our confidence was misplaced going into the Mayo game. And yet we left Croke Park yesterday losing by 4 points, having no position at midfield, not getting enough ball into forward, having been destroyed inside the back line, and we were still 4 points worse off than Mayo. Maybe Dinny's right. Mayo are no good at all.
Right. Colin Cooper argues that Kerry are lacking physicality in midfield and they need David Moore to return to strengthen them in that department. Kerry impressed in Peter Keane's first league campaign, finished top of Division 1 standings and winning 6 from 7 matches. The 4-time All-Ireland winner is not inclined to be too alarmist after Sunday's loss, stressing that Kerry are moving in the right direction, but he noted that Keane's team were dominated by Mayo in the middle third, especially in the second half, and suggested that they are lacking the physicality in that area. Liam Brosnan, when you go in at half time, then 2 super goals, you could say that Kerry could come out after half time and drive because they were able to open up that Mayo defence.
Exactly, and I think Peter kind of said it in one of his interviews after as well. Like when Darragh Moynihan came out of the tunnel and he kind of twigged something, he ran back in, they had to use a sub, and then Kevin was holding the hand very early as well, so that probably maybe upset a bit of planning, alright. But I would agree with Donal. I thought yesterday was very evident that when we came to a certain part of the field, we never looked up to let the ball in. I was watching David a couple of times yesterday, and he made, you'd be always looking at forwards making the second and third run and fourth run. Actually, David made 4 and 5 runs, and he still wasn't getting the ball. And there was several times that he was inside 1-on-1, and that's when you want the ball going into the David Cliffords when they're 1-on-1. He wasn't being double teamed. Mayo didn't double team him yesterday. It was just that we didn't kick the ball into him. Every time in the first maybe 10 minutes that we kicked the ball into him, he was a danger. I think at one stage, alright, went out in front of him and got a ball in front of him, but he every time we got the ball towards him, he was a danger. So I do think that that's something Kerry have to work on. We harped on about me here one night about our half backs driving forward, but yesterday in Croke Park they were driving forward, but they never looked up. And they kind of ran into a tackle. They were turned, and the ball went lateral. Then, Stephen O'Brien had a big game yesterday. I think he was probably one of the forwards. James Horn had his work done on Shawnee Shea, shut down Shawnee Shea yesterday. We struggled to score points. I think Paul Gainey, we need a fit Paul Gainey back in the squad. He's a natural scorer, and that's what we need. If you look at our forward line, Tommy Welch, he really isn't a natural scorer. Kevin McCarthy isn't a natural forward. I think Kevin is more of a worker. So yesterday, if you look at our 6 forwards, there's probably only 2 natural scorers, the Shawnee Sheas and the David Cliffords. The rest of the guys are workers. So we need a fit Paul Gainey. James O'Donoghue, when he came on yesterday, he's not the old James O'Donoghue. I don't know, is it just fitness, or is he just lacking at something? Maybe a bit more game time. But I do think that we did struggle to get the ball into the full forward line early yesterday, especially into David Clifford, because he's a match winner.
Those comments coming through to us. Rome wasn't built in a day. Overall, good league. We have learned a lot about certain players since January. Worth remembering, Diarmuid O'Connor in midfield is a very young player. We made some errors and can be sorted. We're on the way back, but it'll take time. I thought Shane Ryan was outstanding on Sunday. He's one of the best forwards in East Kerry. He should be our number this year, and that comes from Patrick in Killarney. It seems Tim Moynihan doesn't rate Dave Moran at all. Anyway, on another matter, we need our younger players to win under 20 All-Ireland. We need Diarmuid O'Connor on the team. Great lad at his age, and I hate those bloody jerseys. And that comes from Tom in Ballymac. Tom, you've really alarmed me by saying I don't rate David Moran. As far as I know, or I hear, that Dave Moran is injured at the moment. So, not that I don't rate him, I didn't even mention him because he's injured, but I'd have to take you up on that one. For goodness sake, forget about the people that retire. David Moran is still around, A few tweaks will make a difference. Dublin are still a bit ahead. 6 evening match teams, 3 in the north, 2 in the west, and Kerry. Tom from the Mall. Is that the Mall in Dewar or the Mall in Knocknagoshel? John Kennedy, David Moran is a name that was mentioned there by Colin Cooper. His experience is probably needed around the middle. If you pick 2 midfielders now, it doesn't say those 2 midfielders finished the game.
Not at all, Tim. And look,
and that's why we need backup in that department. To be honest, you look at Dublin. They have Michael Darragh McAuliffe comes on for one of the midfielders. Brian Finton is their number 1 midfielder. Anybody could play in the middle with him, and then they offload their bench because the starting 15 don't finish the game.
There's no doubt about it, Tim, for the game that the way the game has gone now, it's all about the panel and about the bench, and certainly David Moran, he's seen Conti Peter Keane, he's 3 or 4 weeks off of being back.
Yeah, so he's injured.
And he's injured, and he will be involved, and he will be there when he comes back, and that doesn't mean that Diarmuid O'Connor is going to be left out. You know, he's an option at wing forward. He's an option to come in. But, you know, there's speaking to people today, Tim, there's a lot of negativity, and, you know, there was maybe a lot of false hope going up to the game, because, you know, like we are trying out, guys. While the league went well, I'd have to agree with Don. The last 2 or 3 games, we just did enough. And, you know, the Mayo game above showed weaknesses. And I think that it is about learning from it. And the management team will sit down this week, and there'll be a lot of positives, but there'll certainly be negatives as well. And they need to look at that and where players they can bring in. And, you know, not looking back, Tim, I think it's time to look forward now. You know, the guys that have retired were great players, but, you know, I don't think we'll be going down that road, and I don't think Peter Keane will either. But it's about getting game time into our young lads now. So look, how many had we? We had 6 players over 24 yesterday. I think I'm right on that one. That's 9 players under 24 years of age. It's a learning thing. It's a learning curve.
But John, you mentioned about players not coming back, and it's not me that's putting up a flag saying that we should bring back X, Y and Z. But all I'm saying is we need reserve in that middle of the field. You mentioned 2 players, Diarmuid O'Connor and likewise Jack Barry. But all I'm saying to you is most teams now have 2 other players that they can add to that in the middle of the field.
Oh, they have, Tim. But I think if we look at the overall picture of Kerry at the moment, like David Clifford yesterday, he's just back from a serious injury. You know, he needs game time. He's going to be a lot better come 2 months' time.
No, I'm talking about the middle of the field.
The middle of the field, yeah. Well, David Moran is injured, Tim, and you know.
But you need reserve. You have to have reserve in the middle.
Mark
of the field.
Griffin has played a few league games there as well. He's another option. Gavin O'Brien is another lad, but he's a young fella again. Just after coming in, he really came out of the blue, Tim, and to give credit to the selectors. You know, Gavin O'Brien.
They've given you this chance.
Many around this county didn't know Gavin O'Brien until a few weeks ago, and he has caught the public. You know, he's got the imagination of the public. He's a big boy. He needs game time, and there's only one place to get it, and it's difficult. And when you're coming up against, like Donald said there, Kerry are in the top 5 or 6 teams. There's no question about it. There's very little between, outside of Dublin at the moment, there's very little between the rest of them. We came up against a battle-hardened Mayo team that did their homework. And I was listening to people today, what went on off the ball, the physicality of Mayo. But Tim, if we are doing that, it's perfect. There's no problem. Everybody's delighted.
Well, some of the stuff yesterday went on with Sean O'Shea shouldn't be tolerated.
But there's officials there to deal with that, and that's up to them.
But they didn't deal with it.
A number of years ago, Tim,
they didn't deal with it, John. We had to talk about it.
We had Aidan O'Mahony a number of years ago. He did a man-marking job on Michael Murphy. Was there any complaint from this county? No, only that Mahoney did a fantastic job, which he did. He nullified Michael Murphy. Yesterday, Lee Keegan nullified Sean Shea. Was it within the rules?
No,
that's
it wasn't.
Questionable. That's questionable.
Oh, it wasn't in the rules, John.
Why didn't the referee deal with it, Tim?
Off the ball several times.
There's officials to deal with that.
But when they don't deal with it, we have to talk about it.
Well, we agree. We are talking about it.
But that comes down to experience again, Tim. That the likes of Lee Keegan can do these kind of things, and the Aidan O'Shea's are getting away with it because it's
the stuff they got away with yesterday. They shouldn't. It's not within the rules. Now, can I just speak about the sad passing of Pat McAuliffe, and a gentleman. He was an RTÉ journalist, and he covered a lot of local sports in Cork as well. And it's a very sad day for the passing of Pat McAuliffe. I mean, he's only 61 years of age, and now I have on the line a man that knew him, and probably in recent weeks probably caught up with that same man, and that's Padraig Harnett. Good evening, Padraig.
Hello, Tim.
Padraig, it's a sad day for his family, his friends, a sad day for sport, and a sad day for RTÉ.
Jeez, absolutely. I was flicking through my phone at lunchtime, the usual April Fool stuff, and I saw his picture, and I reckoned it was some crack that was going on or something, and then I read it. I couldn't believe it. I had to read it a few times because it's the last person I thought. I met him 2 weeks ago when Kerry under-17s, played Cove in Carrigaline. He was covering that game for the Echo, and he headed away with 10 minutes to go because he was going up to cover a hurling match in Fort Laois for RTÉ. So he was one of the few people that crossed over the sports. A lot of us do, soccer or football or our own sports, but he did every sport for RTÉ, particularly the radio, and of course, fluent Irish speaker as well. And he just said to me before he left, if there's anything happened in the last 10 minutes, send it on to me. And I rang him and it was the same score. to think that he's gone today is very, very sad. Very sad.
And like you say, he was very helpful for us so-called journalists when we used to go to cover games. If he needed anything, he'd ask us or want to know about the opposing team, or he would always ask you for your help, and he was always willing to help you out as well.
Oh, absolutely. Particularly some of us who wouldn't have been experienced when I met him first of doing Ireland games in Cork City and all that kind of stuff. And he was one of the senior guys there, but it made no difference once he knew we were working for any part of the media and you needed anything, team sheets or names or anything. He's the first person you would go to, and he was always very, very helpful. And always interested in Kerry when you'd meet him as well. How are things down in Kerry? How's the football going? How are the Crokes going? How are things in Mount Hawk Park? He was down, covered a few games from Tralee Dynamos. We're in the A Championship. So a good love of Kerry as well, and very, very hard to believe that he's gone at such a young age. And a
very unique voice as well, and he'll be missed from the airwaves, and he'll be missed by us up in commentary boxes as well. Very sad.
Yeah, and I suppose his fluency in Irish as well. It's what, all of us can do it in English, but he could switch from Irish to English, and there wasn't many to that. And Radio 1 Sport, particularly RTÉ Radio 1 Sport, will miss him definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Padraig, thanks a million for coming on this evening, and like I say, it was a very sad day for the family of Pat McAuliffe, and a sad day for all his friends, and likewise his employers, RTÉ. We now take a break.
Terrace Talk on Radio Kerry, brought to you in association with BrianJames.ie, leading the way for stylish menswear in Kerry.
You're very welcome back here to Terrace Talk. And I have in studio Donal Barry, Dinny Long, John Kennedy and Liam Brosnan as we look back at yesterday's afternoon display between Mayo and Kerry in Croke Park. I wouldn't be too disappointed at all. Never thought we'd reach a league final at the start of the league. Our defence was very good in the first half, and Shane Ryan was very good. At the end, there was still only 2 kicks of the ball at the end of the game. I can see improvement, and that comes from Mossy. Dinny Long, in relation to that comment, can see improvement. There's a great buzz in the county in relation to football in Kerry. Today, this evening on Terrace Talk, we were only chatting for the game we seen, but there's nobody knocking any individual player. It's just performances on the day, and we look back at it. Can you see an improvement from last year?
Well, definitely, Tim, they've introduced a lot of new players. They've left out players, that probably thought that they would start in the league. They didn't start them. Experienced players. We spoke of 2 or 3 of them. I think, Kerry are going the right direction. You have to be patient. Like Galway and other counties, my own county, Cork, are going down to Division 3. That's a huge, huge disappointment for all Cork people. Kerry people expect to win the National League. They expect to win the All-Ireland, and that's where you're judged in Croke Park by Kerry and by Kerry management. But you have to be patient. Other counties have come along now, and they're putting in the same effort as Kerry. There's 5 or 6 that we can name. They're all putting in their training the same. They're eating the same. They're doing everything the same. So it comes down to very small margins. The big worry for Kerry, in my opinion, is that they were quite exposed in the second half yesterday. And I think there's too much short passing. They're passing for the sake of passing. Particularly for a young team, what you need to do is you need to keep it open and make the opposition run. Mayo are not a young team. I know they've introduced a couple of new fellas, but at the same time, Kerry never exposed them by using the width of Croke Park. There was too much bunching, and there was one particular occasion in the second half, I'd say Kerry made 15 or 20 hand passes going nowhere, and they were all within 40 yards of the Mayo goal. No fellow wanted to take a chance, whether that was lack of experience or what, but that's something Kerry would never do. The Kerry would always shoot, because Kerry have good forwards, good scorers always. So for me, they were playing it too tight, and it suited Mayo. It was too short.
Donal Barry, no mention of the referee's performance so far tonight on the programme.
Didn't he do a fine job, Tim?
I don't think so. Your thoughts on the referee? There was a few decisions. I thought it was very hard, or Kerry found it very hard to get a free from him yesterday.
Yeah. Discuss. It's like an essay. I suppose the first thing Kerry people were agreed to was that should David Clifford, did he get a goal? 7
Up
minutes.
for- oh, yeah, there was- yeah,
7
called a free,
minutes in,
didn't
he
he,
called a
against-
free, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, had that decision gone very early towards Kerry, but, you know, he didn't. Equally in the second half, I suppose Mayo felt they could have had a penalty when Peter Crowley went down and your man threw the ball. It ended up with Mark Griffin and it came away. I suppose, look, you're talking about the discipline or the lack of, or maybe the physical side of it. Mayo went out yesterday, I'll get to the point, right? And this is where I thought Mayo won the game very cleverly. They got that last minute goal, right? No problem. 4 minutes at a time. They scored a goal in the 72nd minute and 30 odd seconds, right? Straight away, Durkin decides, I'm going to create a melee here, grabbing, holding, pulling, the whole lot. Young Dermot Connor, you know, he got involved in something that he shouldn't have got involved in, but he was dragged into it, okay?
But I think I'd admire him for going over to Dermot for protecting his own player.
Yeah, but
Shawnee O'Shea was the ground then.
But he was on a yellow card. He knew that any action would have given him a second yellow, right? Now, I'm not saying that it should have been another Kerry person thing, but you have to admire him that I'm defending my player, I'm going in here.
He was the closest
and he
one
was the
to-
close, and he went in. However, he was the wrong player to go in. If you look at Tyrone and Mickey Hart's teams, they will all take a yellow for the team, but they'll all take a yellow at the right time. Now, this is kind of going beyond the bounds, but you know what? It's in the game. Mayo killed 1 minute and 40 seconds of those 4 minutes, and Kerry had game up. No chance, right? So I think that's experience. We were on about Lee Keegan earlier. I mean, and John is right. You can't wash your hands in the same soap and say it's cleaner for those than it's not for us. You know, in the past, Kerry have gone down those routes as well. My wife's from Carrigaline. The most hated person inside in the house in Carrigaline is Darragh O'Shea. Why? Because every time he met Nicholas Murphy, he absolutely laid down the law from day one, okay? We have players just like that along the way that we will jump up and applaud and a whole lot. And at the end of the day, Mayo wanted to win. Was it the ref's fault? I thought the ref came out fairly clean out of it. He had decisions to make. I didn't think he made any bad decision. I mean, if you think about it, he did give Aidan O'Shea the 2 yellow cards and went off the field. We had...
Because he deserved them.
Absolutely deserved them. There were 2 yellows. No more than the 2 yellows that Dermot Connor got were 2 yellows as well. And that's the way I look at it.
But the only thing Dermot Connor did was pull a player off his own teammate that he was on. I know, and I agree with what you started.
He was the third man in. Any man that comes into the third man into the tackle is always going to be in trouble. He should have known that. He was on a yellow.
Liam Brosnan, was Shawnee O'Shea targeted yesterday?
Oh, he definitely, Tim. And look, and Shawnee O'Shea and David Clifford, they're going to be expecting that. Like John said and Donald said there, that's the way the football is going to be played now. And I know you can
but
say the referees
we have to highlight it in the sense, and I know John alluded to it as well, that if we did it and got away with it, we don't mention it. But we have to see, we're talking about something we seen yesterday in Croke Park.
Yeah, they are.
If the ball had been down 20, 30 yards away from Shawnee was being held sometimes around the neck.
And it wasn't only Shawnee, it was David Clifford and it was Stephen O'Brien. And if you look back at Dublin in the All-Ireland finals against Mayo, Dublin did the same thing to Mayo. When Dublin used score, they used to hold on to the Mayo defenders, they'd hold on to the Mayo main guys, and they wouldn't let him get the ball. So Mayo have learned from that, and I think Kerry will have to learn from it. And I think experience, we can go on about referees. Yes, I don't think yesterday was the greatest referee game ever. There was a few decisions that he was poor. I thought Stephen O'Brien went through in the first half.
He was close,
and he was, and he didn't even get a free for it. You know, and then there was a couple of small decisions, you know, that we should have got. That he was giving them maybe 1 or 2 frees, a lot handier than what we were getting. But as for
why were you thinking it was 18 years since they won a trophy?
I just, to be honest, no, Tim, I don't know about that. But I do think like that we have to get used of, you know, the Shawnee O'Sheas, the David Cliffords and these guys. They are going to be targeted. The Paul Gainey's, you know. So it's
one thing being physical with a player, Liam, but you know, when there's no ball there and you're holding a man,
it's gone on with years, Tim. That's gone on with years. Colin Cooper went through the same thing. All the good forwards that have done through the years have gone through it. The Brogans, it does happen, but it's just up to the player to be cute enough to either to fall down or make that run, that so the linesman or the umpire or the referee can see it. And I've been an umpire myself, and there's nothing worse than a forward standing beside a defender and the defender holding him. Because he can hold him until he actually makes a run and he's pulled or he's dragged. Then you can do something about it. Yesterday,
but if you saw a corner forward being held around the throat by his marker, would you bring attention to the ref?
You'll be calling it straight away, yeah.
Well, some of the linesmen must be blindfolded in Croke Park yesterday. Those comments coming through to us. The Kerry team were poor in midfield. I felt they were all over the place in Croke Park. Always and forever, there on the Kerry team, there were backs from Austin Stack's club. What position is Peter Crowley playing? I thought he was dragged all over the place yesterday. That comes from Liam Cronin in Castleisland, John.
Yeah, Tim, look, positions counted for a little yesterday. You know, the Mayo half back line attacked, and there was times during the game, Tim, and there was nobody inside the opposing 45. None of our forwards were inside. Nobody in there, bar the Mayo keeper. And we got sucked back in. James, I don't know who got a ball at one stage. He was rolling out. He had no option. He had no outlet to give it to. And that's you have to credit. You know, like we've been very positive about breaking from our defence, having numbers back throughout the league campaign, particularly in the early games, having the legs to go between defence and attack, and it worked very, very well. Yesterday we came unstuck because we came up. You look at some of those Mayo backs there, Higgins, Keegan, Durkin. They're as good as you're going to get in the game. Vaughan and Barrett. I mean, there's no easy one. You see, there was a 50-50 ball in between Barrett and Tommy Welch. Barrett was giving him 6 inches or more. His physical power and his experience, he won the ball, and Tommy was looking for a free. There's nothing soft in Croke Park, Tim, and you have to earn it. But these guys, I've no doubt, when Donie Buckley and this management team get 2 or 3 years with these young players and get them drilled and physically conditioned, the future is very bright. And we're going to have to be patient, and we're going to have disappointing days before this championship is out as well. But we are making progress, and we've got to continue with that.
Yeah, great stuff. Those comments come through to us. Us Kerry followers know how to win and lose, but the young players need more time to develop. Don't look downwards, just upwards. And that comes from Mick Moriarty in Summerhill in the county of Meath. And of course, Mick is from Dingle. I think Kerry underperformed yesterday. Mayo knew what to expect from Kerry. This is down to Donie Buckley's involvement with the Mayo team, and that comes from a Castleisland listener. Why was Jack Sherwood taken off yesterday? Was he injured? I feel the full back line went to pieces after he left. I really enjoyed the show. That comes from Breatha in Abidorney. Aidan O'Shea should have been shown a red card a lot earlier. He's a good player, but he gets away with too much, and that comes from John. And the best team won yesterday. Congratulations to Mayo. The Kerry goalkeeper is coming out too much out the field. His job is to stay between the posts, and that comes from a Tralee listener. We'll have plenty more after this break.
Terrace Talk on Radio Kerry with Tim Moynihan. Mondays from 6 to 8 p.m.
You're very welcome back here to Terrace Talk. I've Donal Barry, Dinny Long, John Kennedy and Liam Brosnan in studio, and now we'll get a national perspective. I should have Michael Verney of the Irish Independent on the line. Good evening, Michael.
Good evening to you. How are you?
You're very welcome to Terrace Talk. What's your take on yesterday's victory for the men from the West over the Kingdom?
Well, I suppose it was a great victory in many respects. It was great to see, I suppose, Mayo winning a national title up in Croke Park, and just the fanfare that surrounded it as well. While it was an important title for them to win, I don't think they realised the importance until after the game. And just even listening to the words of Andy Moore and a few of the elder statesmen, when the final whistle goes, and I suppose you're actually triumphant in Croke Park, and the green and red of Mayo is belting out over the Tannoy as well. I don't think they were probably prepared for that, or maybe the emotion that came with it, and I suppose it gave them another little flavour of what it would be like if they were able to do likewise in August. But it was a very good performance. They've learned an awful lot throughout the league, and it just kind of adds more intrigue to the summer.
What's your measure on the Kerry side that we went out of the 6 games, we had won 5 before the final. Kerry, I suppose finals are there to be won. Kerry did come up that bit short yesterday.
They did, yeah, and I think it's their 5th consecutive defeat in Croke Park, which is unusual for any Kerry team. But they would have learned an awful lot throughout the league. I definitely be of the opinion that I don't think Peter Keane will be too downbeat over it all. He continuously said throughout the league that it was all about learning. It was all about learning about players. It was about players getting more and more experience. They got a fair experience yesterday because at stages yesterday, it was boys against men, which it probably should have been, to be fair, given the experience that some of those Mayo lads have and the years and years of strength and conditioning that they have. A lot of the Kerry guys are obviously only introduced to the fold this year or in the last 18 months, so they probably would have got a bit of a rude awakening at different stages yesterday. But it's to me, it's absolutely no harm at all. We know the ability that they have. It's going to take a bit of time for them to bed in at senior level, but the progress I think that's been made throughout the league, and yesterday mightn't have shown evidence of it, but the defence has shored up a bit. There's an awful lot of experience. There's an awful, like the likes of new players coming in on board there, the likes of Darren Moyne and the likes of Dermot O'Connor. While they would have loved to win a final, the experience of getting to play a final in Croke Park and coming up against a seasoned side like Mayo is invaluable for them going forward. So I definitely don't think it's all negative. I think there's an awful lot of positives out of Kerry's run throughout the league.
Just quickly looking to the championship itself, Kerry don't have a game now for 9 weeks, so that doesn't help the cause either. But I suppose while we're looking at the Super 8s, hopefully that Kerry will qualify and give a good account of themselves.
Well, I'd say you're fairly guaranteed they're going to qualify for the Super 8s, all right. It's just the worry would be there, as happened last year, that, given the lack of depth maybe in Munster at the moment, that Kerry will be coming in undercooked again into the Super 8s, and they don't want a scenario. They could be coming in maybe against possible Ulster champions or an Ulster side in the Super 8s in the first game, and they could come in undercooked again. And if they do, they're going to be chasing their tail throughout the rest of the Super 8. So it's not easy. It's not going to be easy to replicate those games in training, but they're going to have to try and, I'd say, do their best to get as much competition within training to make sure they're ready for the Super 8, because they definitely don't want to be coming in like they did against Galway last year. And that kind of maybe set off a chain of events in the Super 8s where they just never really performed or delivered what they know they can.
Great stuff, Michael. Thanks a million for coming on Terrace Talk this evening. I'm sure we'll be speaking to you during the course of the championship. Thanks a million.
Brilliant stuff, thanks Dan.
Of course, that's Michael Verney of the Irish Independent, looking at it from a national perspective. Those comments coming through to us, the Mayo players had our midfielders in a bear hug, and as was said by the panel already, I want to know, what was the ref doing about it? Belated birthday wishes to you, Tim, and that comes from a New York listener. Thank you very much. I agree with Dinny Long. Kerry were pulled into a dogfight, and that comes from Michael Barrett in Newcastle West. It's going to take time for the Kerry team to develop and build strength. I think that we are not as competitive enough. We were not competitive enough yesterday. That comes from a Lisbole listener. I would like if the panel would wish the Mayo team a hearty congratulations. They have fought hard over the years and well deserved. And that comes from Martin in West Clare. Liam, you've been here so long now on the panel. We call you head of the panel. You were in a day before Dinny. You were in a day. Could you wish the Mayo team a heartiest success and congratulations yesterday?
Yeah, I suppose. Look, we are all kind of, when Kerry are not in it, we're all rooting for Mayo, and we have in the last couple of years. And it was nice to see. Like I made the point coming down the car last night that when Limerick won the league hurling title yesterday, they went up and they got the cup. Young Hannon just didn't even want to say a few words, and they just walked off the field, and there was a clap. But when Mayo won it yesterday, it was like they had one stamp. For the fans alone, it was massive. And I suppose, like the players, in some of the interviews today, they did it for the fans. And I think that's probably the love that and Mayo and outside of Mayo that the people said, Jesus, wouldn't it be great for Mayo to win something?
And it's well tested love, isn't it?
It's well tested, and unfortunately, it was tested on us yesterday. We'd rather come down the road with the cup yesterday. But look, it was nice to see Mayo. So, yeah. But once they don't come down in August, we'll be happy.
Yeah, many congratulations to Mayo yesterday, but we never like to see our Kerry team beaten on this side of the border. So see, David Clifford was starved of the ball during the game. Only 3 or 4 passed into him, and yes, he's the best forward in the country. That disallowed goal was a joke, and also we really need to work on our backs, and that comes from Mike in Fires. Felt the referee and the linesman did not afford Sean O'Shea protection in the second half, continuously pulled and dragged, caught in several neck holes, and that comes from John Lane. Hi Tim. Kerry changed their kick-outs in the second half. They stopped the accurate 30-yard passes to either go too short or too long. This was the main reason for losing the grip in the game. What do you think of that, John Kennedy?
Yeah, there's merit in that, Tim, and I suppose you have to. You can only kick out short kicks and find men when they're loose. And Mayo squeezed up and put pressure on us, and they didn't afford us. They didn't give us the opportunity, and made it very difficult for Shane Ryan. You know, we've said it here several times about Stephen Cluxton, who's one of the best keepers in the country, and the best keeper we kick out. And it's all about movement from the defence, be it half back line or full back line or midfielders. We hadn't that movement yesterday, and when we did move, like you already said, we were being pulled and dragged. It wasn't being picked up by the officials, so continued in as it was. That was part of the problem, and it was very difficult to get primary possession. When it went out in the middle, we didn't win the breaking ball either. There wasn't that bit of a hunger yesterday, Tim, you know, to win the breaks or to get stuck in there. Mayo seemed to be coming out. When the ball was bobbling around, inevitably Mayo came out with the ball, and that was the difference at the end of the day. And whether you put that down to experience or physical power, or maybe just a little bit of pressure on the day and how you react to pressure, certainly that's a learning thing again, and they will have learned from that yesterday, because that was the first time some of those lads came up in that intensity in a big match.
Yeah, and John, actually, there's somebody agreed with you here. Completely agree with John Kennedy. Do people in Kerry think defenders we meet later in the year will blow kisses and let Sean O'Shea and Clifford destroy them? We need to harden up, says he. The referee was ridiculous. Look at what Aidan O'Shea got away with. 2 blatant fouls on Tommy Walsh, and the way he tried to bully Seanie O'Shea. Disgusting to watch. John is bang out of order with his view, in my opinion. And that comes from John in Carsiveen. Dinny, looking at what John said there, that, you know, if you're not winning primary possession, and it's come through in a few comments here this evening that David Clifford was probably deprived of possession. That's down to not winning in the middle of the park and breaking ball and that.
Well, it is, Tim, but it's also down to, you know, that your half back line. I think the big, like I said before, the big problem Kerry are playing it too short. It doesn't suit them, and you know, anybody that sees David Clifford and these forwards, even James O'Donoghue, all the great forwards, they need the ball released quick, because it's the first run that you make to win the possession from the back. You then have the back in trouble. But if you hold it, you're giving the back every opportunity to do the job. And we saw one particular ball between Tommy Welsh and Barrett. Tommy is 5 or 6 or 7 inches taller than him, but because the ball came slow, your man was able to position himself in under Tommy. That was probably half a foul by Barrett. But these things happen. As to go back to the pulling and dragging, all the teams are doing it now. That's modern football. The teams that we'll see in Croke Park in the Super 8s, they'll be
probably in the final. Yeah,
they'll be all pulling and dragging. We saw a great example, as John or Liam said earlier on, when Dublin were a point or 2 points up ahead against Mayo. Was it 2 years ago? What did they do from the kick out?
Held everybody.
They held everybody. That's going on. Officials must do more.
Donal Barry, you're going to get a swelled head here, because look, Tim, a question for the very knowledgeable pundit Donal Barry: have we lost our structure at the last few games due to Donie Buckley's zonal defence? Stick with Tommy Griffin's style, it worked well. That comes from Bob in Tralee, and he's not related to you.
That was from Liam.
I thought it was a Fool's Day joke.
No, I suppose the one thing about Kerry yesterday, and they set up against Mayo, twice now they've set up against Mayo man-to-man. And Mayo set up man-to-man as well with him for about 40 minutes that game. And
is that, sorry now to come ask you, but isn't that Peter Keane? Peter Keane is a football man, yes, for a start, and he will go man 15, and that's that. Yeah. You know, he trained, I suppose, Legion. He did it with that St Mary's, and with the minor team as well. Yeah. That's his influence.
He'd come from the school where it's 15 versus 15,
and that's a compliment to his style.
You win as many of those battles as you can, and then you kick on from there, basically. Okay, and I suppose Kerry at the very start, when they came against Tyrone, I suppose, and we were discussing it earlier, we probably met Tyrone at the right time. They weren't really flying. We needed a result, and that gave us a bit of emphasis. We went up to Cavan, we got the victory, and then we had the victory against Dublin, and then all of a sudden there was great momentum and great and everything, the whole lot of it. And I suppose the one thing that we never really looked at the teams was that we probably didn't analyse the teams thoroughly to see the mistakes being made, and a lot of them have been repetitive through. The one thing about yesterday's defence, we didn't get the time to go forward. Tom Sullivan yesterday, he had the ball in his grasp. I made it out there 19 times, right? Tom Sullivan was turned over 4 times yesterday, right? Tom Sullivan wasn't turned over 4 times in the whole league. Mayo had done their homework. They knew the minute he went out, hit him, turn it over. And what they done then was that they ended the Kerry attack before it even got out of midfield. Kerry then were under massive pressure. Tom Sullivan was rambling down for most of the games down the wing, no problem. And that's where they turned over Kerry. And, they Donie Buckley'd Kerry the way that we're hoping Donie Buckley will do for us. But the only difference is that
it's going to take time here.
These boys have experience, they've done it before, they know the game plan, the whole lot. I suppose the one thing about Donie Buckley as well, and maybe it's only a side of a thing at the end of it, when the game was over, some of the Kerry fans were commenting that they weren't too sure what side the fence he was on. The big bear hug with Aidan O'Shea and the big shake hands with Dirk.
Sure, he knows the players.
He does, but if I'm a player and I'm on that team and I've given 70 minutes and I've got a good hiding 60 seconds previous that from Aidan O'Shea, it's disappointing. I would say disappointing. Again, it's my view, and I'll throw it out there. And I understand, that there's a connection and a whole lot. But at the end of the day, it didn't sit well, I feel.
And, well, I'm going to ask Liam Brosnan after the break, because he's from Castleisland District, what he thinks of that. We now take that break.
Terrace Talk on Radio Kerry. Brought to you in association with BrianJames.ie. Leading the way for stylish menswear in Kerry.
You're very welcome back here to Terrace Talk, and those comments come through. Lads, I can't understand why the Kerry defenders are being criticised for going forward. The likes of Tom O'Sullivan and Gavin Crowley are a breath of fresh air. O'Sullivan got great scores during the league, and Crowley ended with 1-1 yesterday, and that comes from Donal and Sneem. Hi Tim, I thought Mayo played their game yesterday on the terms. They bullied our young men, but they only won by 4 points. I totally enjoyed this league, and we can only get better in time. Patience is needed now, and that comes from Mary in Abbeyfield. Enjoys listening to the show as always. Liam Brosnan, Donal Barry just mentioned it before the break that Donie Buckley, he'd have known those players, and we just I suppose you can romantically describe it as bear hugs. What's your thought on that? Because he did spend a lot of time in Mayo, but congratulated those players. I didn't see the bear hugs, but I just saw it shake hands.
The pile of bear hugs going on yesterday on and off the field. No, but look, you can see why, because look, Donie has been up there for years. Look, this Mayo team controversially a couple of years ago got rid of a management team, but they wanted to keep on to Donie, so he has a big connection with the players. And I think even if you go back to a couple of years ago when Donie was down here as well, the players, when he was with Jack O'Connor's management, the players had great time for him. So Donie is a guy that he's a player's guy, and I wouldn't hold it against him yesterday. He probably had a big hand on probably Mayo winning that title yesterday with the years of work that
if Brosnan were playing Curra tomorrow morning or tomorrow even afternoon, and Curra beat Brosnan, and there you are outside, and you're the new Messiah in Brosnan, and you started bear hugging the Curra boys. How would it go down well in Brosnan?
I think it would go down well. I don't think people are that naive now, to be honest, that they would be picking up small things like that. I think, look, there's more happenings on the field than off the field, but I wouldn't say anything with Donie. He knows a lot of these guys better than he knows any of the Kerry boys at the moment. So it's a thing and nothing to him, to be honest. I think Donal is, it's a fool's day. I'd say Donal is only just kind of putting it out there.
I don't know. Donal is a man that works on facts, and his own beliefs is very strong. Now we turn our attention to the TG4, of course, are launching the Underdogs this year, and Kerry players were on it last year, as we well know, and I'm delighted now to have from Adair Productions on the line, Breathe Brannock. Good evening, Breathe.
Hello, how are you?
You're very welcome to Terrace Talk. Well, I suppose we always remember the Underdogs here down when we talk about the Kieran Donahue's of this world being involved. The next thing he enters the inter-county scene. It's a show that's, I suppose, gathering profile again, because you had it last season as well.
Absolutely, we're coming back for, I think this is officially the 8th series that we're coming back for, but the 2nd series this time round, as it were. So we're looking for players again from all across the country, and we're hoping for a few new stars from Kerry as well.
Breed, what's the criteria for a player to get in with the Underdogs panel, or for a trial or whatever?
We've kept it as wide as possible, I suppose, to make sure that we're trying, anybody who can apply can do it for us. So we're looking for people who are over the age of 18 on the 1st of May, just that's very important. Also, they have to be registered with the club as it stands at the moment. And also, I suppose, in terms of the playing criteria, it is that they can never have played with the senior panel at a championship level. So actually, somebody who might have played a league match or two with their county would actually be eligible. And our captain last year, Colin Flynn, had actually played with Longford once or twice in the league. So that it's as wide as it can be without inter-county players already playing.
The series from the season gone by, is there any player that made it on to a senior panel around the, have you, I take it you keep tabs on it?
Oh, I keep tabs on them all, off the field and on the field. But I suppose we had a few. Fintan O'Cooney, who would have been, I suppose, the star player during the series from Spiddale, that plays with James's in Galway. He was playing a few league matches with Galway earlier on in the season before the Corofin lads came back onto that panel. And now he's actually been injured. He's gone off with a shoulder injury. He just had an operation last week. Another one of our fellas from Sligo, Niall Canning, who would have been, I suppose, had kind of hit an emotional button with the audience when he talked about his mum passing away. He was playing for Sligo. He was gone in for a few challenge matches, and then another Longford player called Nigel Rabbit was playing with them during the league as well.
So there's a number of players obviously making. So we're putting it out there for Kerry players tonight, I take it, and we could have a Kerry representation. Is Paul Galvin still involved?
We're not saying anything about the management team as of yet.
Why can't we have an exclusive here tonight on Terrace Talk?
Because I don't deal in exclusives. I have to treat the whole country the same. But
very good.
Look, it would be surprising if there was no Kerry representation.
Sure, there has to be. Sure, this is where it all started down here. Football, you know that, don't you, Breed? Breed,
we'll. The Galway woman now, I don't believe that. But I'll let you away with it today.
Breed, we'll follow very closely what will happen with the Underdogs. There's always a Kerry representative, so I'm sure there'll be a few more this season. Thanks a million for coming on Terrace Talk this evening. Of course, that's Breed Brannock of Adair Productions and TG4, of course, launching their Underdogs again this year. John Kennedy, those comments coming through to us, a lot of, there's huge positivity around our county, which we cannot detract from. There's no negativity here tonight. We just question things in relation that Peter Keane probably learned more yesterday from the loss than if we won by 5 or 6 points, because you think everything is rosy when you win by 5 or 6 points, but now he can address things, and he has probably 9 weeks to do that.
It's a narrow line, Tim, football. The difference between success and failure is, the fine margins, and had the flick by David Clifford not been saved by Hindley, we'd be league champions, I think, and it would have been a fantastic start to the management team and for this new team. But when you lose, you analyse, and we're analysing it, and people will analyse it for the next number of weeks, and where you can improve, and and you're looking for improvement all the time. And certainly there were areas yesterday. Our defence was found wanting on a number of times yesterday. Midfield was a problem at times, and definitely we need to get strength and depth. We have players coming back from injuries that are not as sharp as you'd like them to be. And, over the next number of weeks, look, we're going to be in the Super 8s, Tim. That's the next target now. To get through Munster, get to the Super 8s and see where that takes us. And to have a fully fit squad with a lot of options on the bench. Because you look at Mayo, you look at Dublin, they have the options and they have game changers that they can bring on to make a difference. Andy Morden did it yesterday. Donald Vaughan was pulled off. You bring on a guy like Colin Boyle. These lads have the experience, they have the power, and they've been there. We need to develop that now, and certainly it's very positive, because you have a few of the lads from the Crokes to come in. You have David Moran to come back. Paul Gainey and David Clifford and James O'Donoghue hopefully will be firing on all cylinders.
We'll chat about those players later on. You never told me, was it your birthday in recent weeks? Do we share a birthday? Or Mary and Sean Hannon want to wish John Kennedy a belated happy birthday last week.
Is there one with a 0, Tim? Yeah. They give the age now.
Yeah, you could work it out there, when he was involved with Kerry and what age he was. Surely Tommy Walsh could be used around the middle of the field. When we were in trouble, he was being paid in the AFL to catch the ball around the middle. Hi Tim, I can't understand how Kerry allowed the Mayo midfielder ghost in behind the Kerry defence with nobody to beat but the keeper, and scored goals, and not just on one occasion but again yesterday. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And that comes from Derek Clune. Hi Tim, sick of hearing Kerry have to learn, sure they're not learning to drive. I can't say no All-Ireland this year. And that comes from Margaret in Killarney. For God's sake, Tim, will you grow up? Have you ever been to a match before? We, Kerry, had plenty of targets ourselves. Don't be so surprised and take off your green and gold glasses. Well, I'll tell you, now till the day I die, I will never take off my green and gold glasses. I'll carry them to the graves, you see. Kerry should take their beating. Darragh O'Shea and Ty Kennelly did the same to Nicholas Murphy every chance they got, nothing about it, only great men they were. Different now, and 2 question marks. Dublin beat Mayo previously by keeping the ball away from Aidan O'Shea, and we had that one in before. Also, Mayo did the same as Dublin did last year, scrap in injury time. I hope Peter Keane and his backroom team stick with the system of play he's been developing for this team. I hope he doesn't resort to sweepers and mass defence. I think the football we're playing is attractive, especially the night we played the Doves. The ref did not cost the game. What do you think of that, Dinny?
Yeah, the referee, I didn't think he was that bad yesterday. No, there was a couple of decisions, but you'll always get decisions, controversial enough in big games, because again, small margins. Mayo could have got a penalty. I thought David Clifford's goal should have been allowed. That's my opinion. Overall, Kerry should be satisfied with the league, but they're not, because they didn't win it, obviously. That's their Kerry expect, as I said before.
The bonus territory, Dinny, for Kerry was getting that extra. If they didn't get to league final, would we be judging them in our last game against Roscommon? But there's a lot to be taken out of yesterday.
Correct. And there are plenty of positives there. They made the league final. The big problem now for the management and Peter Keane. And Peter Keane, is a great football man, and he'll learn from what he's seen over the last 3 or 4 months in training and games and what have you. His big problem now is to pick his panel.
Yeah,
who he leaves out there are a few of the Crokes fellas to come in, the few players that are carrying injuries that didn't feature in all the league games. I don't know what the panel is, cut to 30 or 32 or what, that number. So there'll be fellas disappointed. So the big next job is to cut the panel and see where they can improve the mistakes they made, and they did make mistakes, but the big problem for Kerry going forward is that they don't get a game probably until the Super 8, and that's no disrespect to Clare and Tipperary and Cork, but football in Munster, apart from Kerry, is quite low.
Yeah, definitely low. And of course, after the break as well, we'll talk about the club championship. Of course, April is the month for club championship at the different levels, and we'll see that I am sure Peter Keane will look. His panel is open, and he will look at other players as well. Those comments coming through to us, all the basics of football were missing yesterday. Our backs were up front many times, leaving our goal wide open. Any back who leaves the square should be told to go home. Crazy football altogether. And that comes from John and Tralee. Eleanor from Tralee would like to raise an issue in Austin Stack Park. Recently, the new stand is being referred to as the Shed. What a disgrace. We are GAA, not a soccer club. Why not name it after somebody locally who contributed to the club, or even leave it as the Mitchells End? Could you discuss this on the show one evening? We certainly will. We'll now take a break.
Terrace Talk on Radio Kerry. Brought to you in association with BrianJames.ie. Leading the way for stylish menswear in Kerry.
You're very welcome back here to Terrace Talk. I'll just get to a couple of comments before I get to our next caller on the line. 3 points in the first half. Playing with the wind is not going to win a game against Mayo. What's more, we are too clean. Mayo body check and on and off the ball. We win nothing until we do the same. And that comes from a Kerry supporter. Do we need more pace in the centre half forward position? A lot of Sean O'Shea's scores come from frees. Maybe he should go to midfield. Now we'll talk about Tom Parsons, of course. Tom Parsons not allowed to of course he's a Mayo player, not allowed to celebrate with his Mayo teammates, and has happened to other Kerry teams in the past, including Ardfert. And I should have a man from Ardfert on the line, and that is Stephen Wallace. Good evening, Stephen.
Hi Tim, how are you?
Well, Stephen, I didn't realise it happened to any Ardfert team what happened to Tom Parsons yesterday.
It did, Tim, yeah. It got a bit of publicity at the time. No better man to get publicity than Georgie Wallace, I suppose. But at the time, it left a sour taste. Of 2015, when we won the intermediate club up in Croke Park. Obviously, there was a lot of kids. I suppose with the team, their parents, their fathers were playing and everything, and they would have came to the match, I suppose, with their mothers, obviously their fathers being involved in the game. And at the end of the game, then obviously they tried to get onto the pitch, And a lot of them did. They succeeded in getting onto the pitch, so they ended up inside then, which they obviously came in through the tunnel then, and they were in the dressing room afterwards. And when we went to go into the players' lounge then for the post-match with a bit of food and a couple of drinks, they weren't left in, which was a big issue then, obviously, because their mothers had obviously left Croke Park.
Right.
So they would have gone back to we'll say, the hotel where we were going that night or anything like that, and it kind of left a lot of them. We'll say the single lads had gone into the function. The parents of the kids were outside, standing outside the dressing room door, and the stewards were kind of having none of it. And it was, we tried to reason with them that, look, you've left the kids in, their mothers are gone. What are these guys supposed to do? And it ended up kind of in a bit of a standoff because they were, they were in no way obliging. I suppose, look, you put a high vis vest on a fella's back, and all of a sudden he turns into a different animal altogether.
But in relation to Tom Parsons yesterday, and not being smart as some of these stewards, for most of the game they're looking up at the crowd, they're not looking at the game. So does that happen in every game where they wouldn't be able to identify a player like Tom Parsons? So I suppose the stewards have a job to do as well.
They have. Look, Tim, we're not naive enough to realise that there's an element of health and safety, and everybody who, anybody can just go onto the pitch if they want. But I mean, this is Tom Parsons. At the end of the day, he's injured. He's part of the extended panel, and I mean, it was a huge occasion for Mayo yesterday, and I mean, for him to not be left onto the pitch to his teammates and his buddies to celebrate a national title that they've been waiting for since. I don't know, was it 20 years since they won a national title last or something like that in the league? But I mean, it was just ridiculous, But a lot of these stewards, and not all of them, now, to be fair, a lot of them are good guys, but some of them, they're unfortunately, they're on a bit of a power trip, and it turned into a bit of fiasco, and it's how that man didn't know that was Tom Parsons is beyond me, or would he even listen to reason? I suppose, not being privy to the conversation that took place is another issue.
Quickly, Stephen, what is your take on yesterday's game, Kerry's performance and the Mayo win?
Yeah, look, Tim, I suppose, look, being a proud Kerry man and everything, you never want to see your own lose, but I suppose maybe the bigger picture is you couldn't begrudge Mayo. There were 10 finals I think they've been in, and they've lost all 10 of them, I believe. So you couldn't begrudge them a title. And the law of averages, they were eventually going to catch us. I mean, we've beaten them time and time again. And we're such a young team. It's going to be a real learning curve. I think the big difference was, for me, was the physicality of the Mayo lads and the tackle. How they're real seasoned, defenders who've obviously been coached under Donie Buckley for a long period of time, and they're probably at a different level maybe to our younger guys who now, luckily, we have Tony Buckley involved with, but it's going to take Donie a bit of time, to get his stamp across on these lads, and it's a lesson learned. And look at if we win the All Ireland in a couple of months' time, there won't be many people even concerned about the league final. Yeah,
definitely so. Stephen, thanks a million for coming on Terrace Talk this evening, and I'm sure we'll be speaking to you in the course of the championship. Thanks a million.
Yeah, not at all, Tim. Anytime. Thank you. Of course,
that's Stephen Wallace of our first in relation to Tom Parsons yesterday, not allowed. Dinny Long, Donie Buckley. I suppose the big talk about Donie Buckley is that he's the strength and condition, the work he did, powering the tackle by Kerry. In order for him to deliver that, it won't happen overnight. No, and like Liam said there, he's been in Mayo for 5 or 6 years or whatever it is, and the one thing Mayo have done, and their backs, all their players, they're very, very good tacklers. They dispossess teams. They're up there with the Dublins and the Tyrones when Tyrone were at their best. Of course, Donie can work miracles. He's only been with the team apparently 5 or 6 or 7 weeks or whatever it is. So you're looking at probably a 2 year, at possibly 2 to 3 years before they will benefit. And the other thing is to physically get stronger. Those 20-year-old guys, to take them another year or two. Playing senior championship football now is a huge demand. It's a draining demand, and as we saw yesterday, physically Mayo were much superior to Kerry in the physical stakes. So Kerry
learn from that. It'll take them a while to get up to that type of strength, but they'll get there, and they must persist and they must have patience.
Donal Barry, following on from what Dinny said, that a number of years ago I was speaking to Pat Flanagan, our own trainer, the man from Waterford, and he was saying the likes of Aidan O'Mahony at that stage took a couple of years for Aidan to become the strong player that he was. And it's probably more the same, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose if you look at the photographs that are taken after All Ireland finals, and you can look at them maybe 3 or 4 years apart. I mean, that team from '97, they were a big team by 2000, and then if you look at the team in the mid-noughties, that Tyrone were bullying around the place and Armagh were bullying around the place for a while. They were bigger men when they got control of things. You can't grow or develop overnight, but I suppose the one thing that you can do overnight is that you can learn from the experiences. Okay, I mean, we'll say Dermot. We'll go back to midfield again. Okay, Jack Barry and Dermot O'Connor, they were on a pile of positives about their play yesterday. Every time O'Connor got the ball, he tried to play a kick pass into somebody at a moving pace. Where he was beaten was in the physicality stakes when he went up for a ball. He jumped maybe too soon. He got pushed in the air. He couldn't get his position within it. All that he will learn in time, and the strength will help him to ensure that that extra bit of kilo that's after being put on him, that will ensure that he's not pushed out or pushed around the place. I mean, Aidan O'Shea yesterday. Aidan O'Shea didn't run up and down the field all day yesterday. Aidan O'Shea came into the game on his terms, and that was Darragh O'Shea in the past. That was all. We always had a good holding midfielder. We don't have one of those.
He kind of plays between the 245s, and he lets Matthew Rowan do the box-to-box stuff.
He does, but I mean, everybody has a Farrell order. Everybody has a machine type player. We don't have either at the moment. We have guys that can run up and down the field, but they're not creating enough when they can manage to do so. Ryan is different. Ryan, all of a sudden, he can create as well. I mean, he's very good for finding space, which a lot of midfielders aren't doing. Most midfielders just go up and down. He can find space. He can find ears. He can go out and find boys who are going to give him the ball back. I mean, that goal yesterday, we'll say where he ran into space. If you look at it, it was when Jason Foley came back out with his man. His Mayo man took him out of the play, and by coming out of play, he took Paul Murphy and Crowley out of play, and he was in goal. The other goal as well, everybody's saying, he ran in goal. Graham Sullivan pulled up with a hamstring injury. Yeah. I mean,
people don't spot those.
And you don't spot it, but you have to spot it, because that's the reality of it. And again, look, they're very, very small margins, but in time. I suppose everybody wants to win All Ireland tomorrow, but it's time, and the next time that we will see these players in action is 9 weeks away, in the 1st of June, and we can start all over again.
Those comments come to us. What makes Dublin great is their forwards can defend, their backs can score. Kerry are the closest to doing so, and yesterday's experience will work wonders for them. That comes from MC. I expected Mayo to fancy their chances against Kerry yesterday. I figured they would win by the slightest margin. I just didn't expect we would be exposed in the manner we were by Mayo's direct off-the-shoulder runs. Look, hats off to Mayo. We have to take it on the chin and get on with it. Very proud of the lads and their efforts throughout the league. It's a long road without a turn. Hi, Tim. Yesterday was the first day in the big boys' school for most of the Kerry players, and they will learn from it. That comes from Dennis. Liam Brosnan, the club championship is, I suppose we had, and of course for our listeners out there, I'm sure you with some of those club games the weekend, you might send us on any comment of even the clubs you think that will win the respective championships. Peter Keane, the players, and he said it yesterday in the interview, the post-match press conference, that the players are going back to their clubs for the duration of this championship. Now, he also mentioned that a lot of these players have a lot of football played over the last. Does that put pressure on the clubs to play them? But every club needs their county player, don't they?
Well, it's championship month, so every club will be looking after, they're not looking for their county players to be playing with them. I presume that if a club is winning a game easy enough, they could pull him off and give him a rest. All right, I presume he's aiming at the Shawnee Sheas and these guys who had Sigerson and who had a long campaign through the winter. All right. But at the same time, it's very hard to say to a club that you're not, please don't play your county player because he needs a break for us for 9 weeks' time. So this is a big one for every club. But I do think Peter is going to be watching all the games. The panel is open. He keeps saying that, and I believe because even with the Sigerson, the time I was involved with the Sigerson, he was bringing guys in that were playing well with the Sigerson. So he has no bones about bringing fellas in and having a look at them. If you're playing well, I do think Peter will bring you in, and I think this is their opportunity. This 4 to 6 week period now for even the guys that are not in there, that are kind of in people's minds and people's talks, that if they play well in the next couple of weeks, that they could be called in for a couple of weeks training.
John Kelly, you mentioned earlier in the game, we haven't seen any of them yet involved with the county panel. You mentioned Dr. Crokes. Which players from Dr. Crokes will be in with Kerry?
Well, I suppose Tim, look, Shane Murphy and
I was nearly shot earlier today for saying Johnny Buckley should be approached. So
Shane Murphy and Gavin White are automatic, I presume, and they'll be looking at David Shaw and Tony Brosnan. And like you said, if Johnny Buckley pulled out himself, due to work commitments, I think he has something to offer. There's no doubt about it. And his experience and backup alone is, maybe Tim. But look, all these players, the shop window's there for them, and I think that we could see a really good club championship now, because we have young guys that they'll relish the break, I think, from being involved. It's been a hard, tough campaign in the league.
It's very demanding.
They're very demanding. Getting back to the clubs, I think it's going to be good. And that month, it could actually, they'll improve, because that pressure's off. And you could see the county players going out and performing. We haven't seen it for a number of years now. But last year, and earlier this year, we did see it. I think it's important that they do, and that they lead by example. And then there are others out there that will relish a crack at some of these fellas. So it could lead to a great championship.
And plus the fact that be it the senior club championship, like was the intermediate, the junior premier, the junior, the novice, there's players down there that will feel that maybe if I play well, I will be called in. So it's an exciting time for the Kerry supporter.
There's no doubt about it, Tim. And look, you look at Nagale when they'll be out. You have the two Kerry midfielders playing for Nagale. You have Adam Barry also. Like, people go along to see these guys playing. That's what Kerry supporters want. They want to see the county men going out, not alone going out in the club game, but performing, and to say, yes, this guy has it or whatever. And other guys will lift their game. You imagine these fellas coming back to their clubs now. The other club players will lift their game when they're around, and it augurs well for the next month.
Yeah, definitely. So those comments come through to us. Looking at the positive from yesterday, that match was better than a month's training. We learned so much about ourselves and about Mayo. I'm sure we will meet again. And what about the Crokes lads? When are they back? And Micheál Burns and Gavin White were needed yesterday. All-Ireland Senior B Colleges final. Best of luck to Skull Pubble Slieve Lucra in the All-Ireland final Saturday, April the 6th at Croke Park at 12:45 against Roscommon CBS. Yeah, and well done. What an achievement getting to that final from, I suppose, small number school. And by the way, of course, commiserations as well. Public School Corkagina lost the weekend as well. But I was talking to a few lads coming out of that game, and they were saying something like 2,000 students going to that Naas CBS, whereas I think obviously it's a mixed school back in Public School Corkagina, where you're speaking about 300-400 students. So Naas definitely have the numbers. We now take a break.
Terrace Talk on Radio Kerry, brought to you in association with BrianJames.ie, leading the way for stylish menswear in Kerry.
You're very welcome back here to Terrace. Now we speak about the silent sideline in under 12 football. Of course, Kerry, Christian and Og implementing silent sideline in phase 1 and 2 of the county leagues. And I should have the chairperson of the CNN, Tommy Cronin, on the line. Good evening, Tommy.
How are you, Timmy?
You're very welcome to Terrace Talk. Could you tell us what all this is all about, silent sideline?
I can. It's it's a county initiative. It's our children's officer, the county board children's officer, Bernie Reen, is kind of the person behind it. She spearheaded it, and what it is, I suppose, we're trying to provide an environment for our young footballers and hurlers where they can just kind of concentrate on football and not have to worry about anything going on sidelines or anything like that. So it's a child welfare initiative, but we're going to run it in. No, we're not running it right across. We're running it in Division 1A and 1B of the under 12 county leagues, but we do hope to run it right across in phase 2 of the county leagues, which will kick off. The county leagues are kicking off this weekend on Sunday evening. And phase 2 then it's about 7 weeks' time. And so it's Bernie's the person behind this. I think it's a great idea. Look, I suppose we're just trying to eliminate all these other things that go on, which shouldn't be done.
Correct.
Our youngest players, like.
And it's definitely happened over the last number of years, and it created stories about it, but it had to be addressed, and maybe this is one way of doing it.
Yeah, I mean, let's not paint the whole picture. I mean, it is still isolated stuff, but I suppose the isolated stuff is the stuff that gets the headlines. Correct. And because the work that's been done at club level across the board is brilliant in general. But look, there is these things that happen, and we feel, I suppose, Bernie and them felt that maybe kind of a visual thing would be the way to go, and so we're going to implement it. Hopefully it'll be a great success.
Great stuff. Tommy, thanks a million for coming on Terrace Talk this evening.
No problem. Thanks for having me on.
We'll keep an eye on that, silent sideline in under 12 football, and a great initiative. Thanks a million. And of course, he's chairperson even of CNN. That's Tommy Cronin. A tweet has come through. Hi Tim, disappointed with Donal Barry. It looks like he's questioned Donie Buckley's allegiance to Kerry. I've been in a situation where you lost to an old team you formerly coached, and it hurts while you have to show sportsmanship. Donie was and will be hurting.
I suppose I'll be going to the sideline after this, will I? As quickly as possible. No, I didn't call it in. I just said the semantics of it doesn't look good, and that's from my point of view. And you're looking in it because you're giving people on social media a little bit of firepower. I mean, there was tweets put up there: "Return Donie, all has been accomplished, mission accomplished." The whole lot. You don't need to add to that. I mean, obviously, you win, you lose, you go out, you're gracious. Absolutely, Donie, of course, has been around, since even 1984 with the Vincents and the Desmonds and the whole lot. Fierce, gracious man, the whole lot. But at the end of the day, just from my point of view, and I'm as much a person I'd paid to go into Croke Park and have a look down as any of the other 44,000 people, and it's my view, and I'm quite happy to stand by it.
Fair play to you, Donal. You answered that pretty well. Comment coming through to us, lads, why not Dahi Casey? John Kennedy, that's for you.
Yeah, he's another player, Tim. Dahi has been in and around the panel for a number of years, and he's one of, like I think Dinny mentioned it a while ago, Peter Keane's biggest problem will be to select his panel. Everyone is available now, injuries and all queued up. It's going to be a difficult panel to pick. There's quite a number of players out there.
That's a great complaint.
Oh, it's a great complaint, and I think that, if you were a management team at the moment and you have to look at where you can improve, and are the players out there to improve in those positions, and if they are, then have a look at them. And I think that's very simple, because we have a lot of areas we have a lot of cover, and other areas we're a bit sparse, and I think that all those players will come into the reckoning when they sit down to pick their final panel.
Barry O'Sullivan should be given a shot at full back, and Ronan Murphy from Beaufort should be given a shot at midfield. Put that to the panel. James in North Kerry, and just as you said, John, that the club championship is coming up, and I'm sure that Peter Keane will give players that championship. In 2016, St Mary's won the All-Ireland Intermediate Championship. The great Jack O'Shea was brought into the dressing room in Croke Park to congratulate even his fellow townmen, and security put him out. If Donie Buckley and the management team are so good, why do we keep getting caught in the whole time in the back line? The same in Tralee, and yesterday again in Croke Park we were caught. What do you think of that, Dinny?
Again, Pete, that's a person's opinion. What you're talking about really is that the present Kerry management are building a team for the future. The future is reasonably bright, and you have to have patience. I'd like to say one thing, is that Mayo, I congratulate them on the win. Nobody would say otherwise. They've been, their supporters, they've been the best I've ever seen. I've gone to a lot of the matches there with Mayo fellas living here in Kerry. I want to congratulate them as well, because Mayo are good for football. They're very good for the coffers of the GAA, because they have 18 or 20,000, whatever it is, following them continuously. They've followed Mayo through very, very bad times. They haven't been successful really for many, many years. So congratulations to them. But Kerry future is bright, but they have to be patient. I remember going back 50 years ago that Kerry expect to win the All-Ireland every year. That has changed. Other teams are now putting in a huge effort in to compete with Kerry, and that's respect to Kerry. So you have the Dublins, the Tyrones, the Monaghan's, all these have caught up. So Kerry now have to raise the bar again. They need time. They have a lot of young players, but be patient and they'll get there.
Yeah, definitely so. Another comment coming through just, hi, just wondering, is there anywhere I can listen to the post-match interview with Peter Keane that Tim just alluded to? Great show as always. Yeah, that interview, it's on the Radio Kerry website under the sports section. Another comment here, we really need to have to stay at home. Backs 2, 3 and 4 and 6 do a primary role of defend and let 5 and 7 forward on occasions. Playing David Moran wing forward and Tommy Welch and Jack Barry in the middle of the field allow us to get a lot of success with the long ball strategy. What's more, Moran and Sean O'Shea are good passers of the ball to feed Donny, Gainey, Clifford and to win games. Actually, a quick mention here, John, you never told me that, John Kennedy, that ASD are going to launch Stars in Their Eyes again, and of course that's a fundraiser. There's a lot of pitch developments around our county. You had a successful one last year, I take it. It's on again. It's on around the first week of May.
Yeah, it's on the Sunday night of the May Bank Holiday weekend, Tim, and it's I think we've a pitch that we are depending on a lot of clubs in North Kerry for matches. It's fine during the summer months, but when you need it, it's not there. And I think the club and the officers have decided that they're going to have one shot at this. They've got some lot of funding, and they're putting in a massive effort. And
are you entering yourself?
No, Tim, I'm not, but there'll be...
I heard you do a great Elvis.
It should be a good night, Tim. You know, it's anybody around North Kerry. It's you're imitating or some pop star or some singing, whatever, and you sing your piece.
Great novelty.
It's a great night, and it's seen as a night of, rather than a fundraiser, it's seen as a night out, and it has been very enjoyable, and hopefully it'll be a big one again.
So it's May the 5th. Those comments come through. I think that Donie Buckley has been a great player for Kerry in the past. My first game that I watched was in 1954. I was 12 years old at the time. Kerry were playing Cork at that time. I also think that it was Wishy's first match as well. And that comes from Morris Long in Birmingham. For the panel, do you think that Kerry should wear the green and gold jersey instead of the gold jersey worn yesterday? Liam?
Yeah, Tim, I suppose that was a kind of a bugbear with a lot of people yesterday, and it'd be nice to see the green and gold out there. I don't think the green and red and the green and gold clash that much. Even the times we beat them in the All-Ireland finals, we had the green and gold. So I think, but look, it's a marketing tool. That's the way football has gone now. So I don't know, will they revert back to it?
I think there are other great players from other clubs, not just from Dr. Crokes. That comes from a South Kerry listener. Fair play to you lads tonight on your show. I feel much better that it was like a therapy session for Kerry fans anonymous. Everything is positive. Donal Barry.
And just bring positivity to the world, don't I?
I think you were a big player in that. But there was no negativity here tonight. You just talk about... I suppose the big thing yesterday, was coming from yesterday and tonight, that we've young lads that are going to develop, and like Dinny Long has said earlier, it will take patience.
I think what we have is very, very knowledgeable supporters and very, very knowledgeable people that support the Kerry team who understand totally that we are at the beginning of a process. And I know that sounds a horrible word and it's a political word in a sense, but do you know what? We will be sitting here in 3, 4, 5 years' time wondering where our second and third and fourth in a row is coming from. And the seeds are being sown now. I think Sylvester said at the very start in his tweet, we need patience, and I think people will give Peter Kane patience. He has done everything right up to now. I mean, he's engaged with the supporters, he's opened the gates, people are rambling in and out of corners, figuring out what's going on themselves, whether they're allowed or not.
Peter Keane has the Kerry supporters on his side.
He does, and he's a supporter by nature as well. And I suppose there will be tougher days ahead, and I envisage that when we get to the Super 8s, then the real serious questions will ask, because people will all of a sudden expect a few more results. And it's like what Michael Verney said at the start: if we have a very easy Munster Championship, we end up playing somebody in the first round of the Super 8s and we lose that game, then the pressure's on and then it gets real. So we'll wait for then.
You're a very positive person, Donal. You're great company, to be fair. Sometimes the boys can be a small bit negative there at times, but tonight I think you won them over. They were wholly positive. I want to thank you, Dinny Long, for coming on once again on Terrace Talk. Likewise you, Donal Barry. John Kennedy, I can't wait to see you with your Elvis wig even that night on the 5th of May.
What about the Greatest Showman? Is Amy going to put that up on Facebook for all the listeners to see?
The Great Show, actually, one quick mention. Actually, it was a brilliant night by UHK. There was over 950 people at it down in the Brandon, and it was a very important cause, the chemotherapy unit in the hospital. It was a brilliant night, and look, I played.
And you performed.
I played just a very small part. Thanks a million. Tonight I want to thank Matthew Green, who was on sound. Likewise Eamon Hickson, who may meet yet the SD side in the club championship. We'll have to wait and see about that. All I have to say is, until next time, this is Tim Moynihan saying goodbye.